YouTube, despite the Miami Heat not making any drastic moves to change this roster in the 2024 NBA offseason, I'm going to give a little bit of a hot take. I actually think the Miami Heat are extremely dangerous in the upcoming 2025 NBA season for any Eastern Conference contender to have to face in the playoffs. And again, while they don't make any franchise-altering moves necessarily, it doesn't hurt to have Heat culture behind you. It doesn't hurt to have a healthy returning Jimmy Butler for next season, who is in a contract year, who I would imagine will be playing his best basketball throughout the NBA season. Doesn't hurt to have Bam Adebayo adding a consistent three-pointer to his game if you watch the Olympics. And I would say it doesn't hurt to have, in my opinion, the best coach in the NBA in Coach Spoelstra. Folks, the Miami Heat are going to be white hot in the 2025 NBA season in the Eastern Conference. This is a Miami Heat deep dive. Grab a snack, folks. This is going to be a good one. We're going to be diving through every move the Miami Heat have made this offseason. That includes draft, trades, re-signings, departures, and additions. We're going to be going into their roster. I'm going to be doing a massive roster inventory and deep dive where we're going to be going through player by player. I'll be giving my takes on this team throughout the video and explaining them at the same time. The Miami Heat are not to be taken lightly. Let's talk about it in this NBA deep dive. So as we said, we're going to start with the offseason here, and, we're going to start with the re-signings. You actually had quite a few, and, a pretty big one at that. And that is your franchise cornerstone center, arguably, top player on this team in certain situations, and that is Bam Adebayo, one of the greatest centers in the NBA today. He will sign a 3-year max extension worth up to $166 million with the Miami Heat. I always talk about on this channel how securing your best players and retaining them is a very underrated thing. It might be boring to some people as far as headlines, but listen, it's not boring, and it's actually necessary to win at the highest level in this league for a long period of time. The Heat secure maybe the player that is best equipped to take them to the heights they want to get to in the future. Bam, in my opinion, probably the third best center in the NBA right now. Okay, you could make a real case that behind Nikola Jovic and Joel Embiid, he's right there at number 3. I think he's got a good case for it. And again, we'll talk about everybody on the roster in the roster deep dive, but him adding that consistent 3-pointer, if it rings true for the regular season, this is a huge addition for your offense. Bam Adebayo needs to be secured, and I'm glad that he did that in this offseason, signing him to that 3-year extension. You also re-signed Thomas Bryant, who is a good centerpiece, for the depth. If you want to say that Thomas Bryant probably be your third string center, I could get behind that. But injuries happen. This is a long season, and the Heat have had a ton of injuries last year. It seems like a lot of times throughout the years, the Heat struggle to keep everybody on the floor at the same time, and I think just securing some center depth in a guy like Thomas Bryant, who has some offensive upside, who's a big body, I think it's a good move really for a 1-year deal. One of the bigger re-signings, for the Miami Heat is Haywood Highsmith. There was a lot of talk about how Haywood Highsmith, was probably going to be on the move this offseason. We heard a lot of teams interested, including my Philadelphia 76ers. And, Haywood Highsmith coming back on a 2-year deal with the Miami Heat. This is a, 3-and-D wing who's actually pretty good on the defensive side of the floor. He gives a lot of effort. He's a big-time hustle guy, which fits your identity of Heat culture super well. And if you want to talk about his 3-point shooting, it's actually pretty solid. He can hit those corner threes at a big rate. If you're just going by last season, 66 games played, 26 games started, about 40% on 3-pointers for 3 attempts per game. That is a big time re-signing for the Heat. This is a player you really like if you're the Miami Heat to be either a starter or one of the first wings off the bench, now losing Caleb Martin, and a really good offensive rebounder too for his position. So Haywood Highsmith, the glue guy, a nice 3-and-D piece. I love the re-signing for 2-year deal. Kevin Love also returns on a 2-year deal. Actually, I think Kevin Love does not get enough credit for how much impact he's given to the Heat as a stretch big, since his time there. Like, he really has made this offense a little bit more dynamic at times. It's good to have him play next to a guy like Bam Adebayo. And now Kel'el Ware, I think that's going to make a great pairing next to Kevin Love. It really allows Bam Adebayo to operate down low, and I think Kevin Love's offensive rebounding ability, again, another great thing for this team, re-signing Kevin Love. I love the veteran leadership. I love how he fits with this identity and culture. And I just think, again, the ability to space the floor as a stretch big is very underrated for Miami. Love the re-signing 2-year deal for Kevin Love. For the additions, this is the most controversial part of the Heat's offseason. They don't have many additions, and actually they only had one in the offseason as far as free agency. But Miami Heat fans, please let me know down in the comment section how you're feeling about your offseason. I actually think, I'm not sure a massive move is warranted with this team. I think they're still good good enough to compete. You could make a case that at the highest level, you know, with teams like the Celtics, the Knicks, and the Sixers, and the Bucks, they are maybe a little bit lackluster in terms of top end talent. Maybe you could use like a third star. We'll get into the roster later, but I'll give my takes on that. But like, Pat Riley seems to think that this team is talented enough to contend in the East next season, and I want to hear Miami Heat's fans' thoughts about that down in the comments. For the additions, you sign Alec Burks to a 1-year deal, and Alec Burks, an NBA, you know, veteran, journeyman, good scorer, good shooter, can handle the ball. Knock on wood that this doesn't happen, but if there ever was a case where Tyler Herro or Terry Rozier goes down with an injury, you know, Alec Burks, I think, could slide into one of those roles and be pretty good, assuming, you know, he only needs to play a certain amount of games. Like, this is not a starting caliber player. I'm just saying, like, in a pinch, if you really needed a, you know, complimentary ball handler to come in for like a spot, you know, injury start or whatever, like, he is pretty capable, I think, with that shooting ability. He's a decent playmaker. You know, he's just been around a long time. I think he fits the culture pretty good with the Heat as well. So this is a cheap deal, and I think it makes a lot of sense in that regard. You know, Caleb Martin, as a 76ers fan, I couldn't be happier, you know, with the signing of Caleb Martin, but I got to imagine as a Heat fan, that's pretty disappointing. You know, he was one of your best players throughout the last few years, and, you know, we could talk about all of the great contributions he's made to the Heat's playoff runs. I mean, he really seems to show up in the playoffs in big moments, hits big shots, really good defender from the wing, just a solid all-around player that is pretty versatile on both ends. And I think, you know, losing him is a big loss, but I will say you do have a ton of forward depth on this team, and I think that is, you know, enough to be able to say that this is certainly a big loss when you lose a guy as good as Caleb Martin on both ends. But also, I think the forward depth is really good, and it's not necessarily a situation where you're gonna have nobody to play at that position. I think there are plenty of guys on this roster who could step up and fill a role like that. We know about the contract situation, how they offered him a big time contract worth up to 60 mil. He turned it down. We're not really here to talk about that in this video. I'm not his agent or whatever, but like, I just think that it is clearly a big loss. I'd be lying if I said it wasn't. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't happy as a Sixers fan, but I also would be lying if I said, you know, they have nobody to replace this guy and it's a terrible thing. Like, I think Haywood Highsmith is a solid fix for this problem, and guys like Haywood Highsmith, we'll talk about everybody on the roster later. It's hard not for me to talk about it right now, but I just think, you know, it's a little bit overblown how much, you know, this could impact the Heat if everybody's healthy next season. And you also waive Orlando Robinson, who actually ended up signing with the Sacramento Kings. He was a center for you guys, but, you know, with the re-signing of Thomas Bryant and with the addition of Kel'el Ware at that, you know, center position, you also could technically play Kevin Love there. I don't think it's necessarily the biggest deal in the world. He didn't really seem to have a consistent role with you guys anyway, and so I think you're fine with that, you know, loss taking place. And that's pretty much it for the re-signings, departures, and additions. I don't think they get enough credit for retaining these players like Bam Adebayo, like Haywood Highsmith, like Kevin Love. All you see in the media is how, you know, they haven't made any big moves. They lose Caleb Martin. That's all you're gonna see, and that's just a kind of a misrepresentation of this offseason, in my opinion, and what the impact is for next season. I don't think it's necessarily that simple. I don't necessarily think it's that, you know, massive game-changing problem that you're, you know, gonna see in the media. But, you know, there are conversations to be had about whether or not this team should go after another star, right? They certainly have some of the assets to be able to do it. It just seems like Pat Riley isn't necessarily the biggest fan of that decision. Let me know down in the comment section. Again, Heat fans, how you feeling about this? I personally think you guys are gonna be just fine with the talent you have because you have so much of it. We're gonna get in the draft right now, but, you know, after that, we're gonna do the deep dive. I'm gonna explain why I think all the stuff I'm saying, but again, let me know, Heat fans. Yeah, overall, I'd give it a B-. You know, it's not the end of the world, and it's also not the greatest offseason I've ever seen, but I will say the draft really makes up for it. And again, you know, securing Bam Adebayo long-term is way more underrated than people are giving it credit for. So let's get into the 2024 draft for the Miami Heat, where they select possibly the most versatile, you know, center in this draft, and that is Kel'el Ware, okay? And Kel'el Ware, if you guys watched him in the summer league, oh my goodness, this guy is a problem on the floor. He is so incredibly good and dynamic, and he's going to add so much versatility to this team. First of all, we have to talk about the three-point shooting, okay? It looked so good. Like, it actually looked like, you know, very impressive to me in that summer league. You know, he was knocking them down quite a bit. He played so exceptionally well with the rebounds, and he's seems to be a really talented offensive player. He's a little bit raw as well, so this is legitimately a guy who could be, you know, miles better in a couple of years. And people are going to say, oh, well, you have Bam Adebayo, you just signed him, you know, you signed Thomas Bryant. Why do you bring in a center at 15th? You know, Jared McCain was on the board. Dalton Connect was on the board, right? Listen, Kel'el Ware, I think, has a way higher ceiling than all of those guys, if I'm being honest, because of his athletic ability and, you know, his ability to do so many things on both ends of the floor if everything works out for him. We've heard about the issues with his motor. Listen, man, all I could say about that is Coach Spoelstra and this development staff, they're certainly going to get the best out of Kel'el Ware. That's never been an issue for this staff. They get the best out of every development piece they've ever seemed to have the last few years. They're just going to get everything out of him. So it's up to him whether or not, he has a, serviceable motor as a great two-way player in the future. But like, if he is able to do that, it's going to happen in Miami. He could not have gone to a better situation in this regard, okay? Because they're not going to tolerate, low motor players on the floor. No matter how talented they are, you are going to be on the bench if that is the case. And I will say, Kel'el Ware's talent, certainly could be, again, some of the highest ceiling in the draft. I mean, we're talking about a legit 7-footer at, center or power forward, wherever you're going to play him, who is a, exceptional shooter. And he's also a fantastic rim protector. He's got great mobility on the defensive end for a big to be able to switch on to ball handlers or, whatever it is. Like, he is such a versatile defender. And, if he is going to back up Bam Adebayo, I think that is insane that you're always going to have that versatile of a mobile center on the floor that can do a lot of different things on both ends. So basically, you're going to rotate these two, just freaks on both ends. And then also, this guy's a lot different skill set offensively than Bam. We talked about Bam and his shooting ability recently, but like, I think Kel'el Ware is like a different level of shooter than Bam. I think we could be honest about that at his ceiling, right? And so there are people saying like he could actually start for this team and be the starting power forward or, positionless, center, whatever it is next to Bam. As far as that, we'll just have to see, right? But I will say it is possible considering that they both basically can shoot. And, if Bam truly can shoot a near consistent three-pointer, that is certainly a possibility offensively to have both those guys on the floor at the same time, making the minute situation not an issue, okay? So if it turns out Kel'el Ware is too good not to start, you probably can start him at the 4. That is going to be the toughest front court, one of the longest front courts and most versatile defensively in the league, no question about it. I mean, that is insane. But I think, if we're really being honest here, like a guy like Kevin Love paired with Kel'el Ware could be super good as well off the bench. So we'll have to see who ends up starting at that power forward spot. But one of the most intriguing prospects in the entire draft. He also has good post scoring ability. Like, this guy is a lob finisher. He is a decent passer. Like, it's just the only thing people are questioning is really his motor, but his talent is through the roof. And again, Coach Spoelstra is going to get all of it and he's going to extract it into this Heat culture. So I absolutely love the pick. People are saying, oh, you got people that can help you at different positions there. Like, why do you take a center? That's, a spot that's already filled. I don't see it. I don't see it like that at all. I think you take the best player available with a unique skill set that, quite frankly, not a lot of players in this league have. I love this pick, A+. And the fit isn't an issue for me. Now, as far as the 44th pick, you actually acquire Pelle Larsson from the Atlanta Hawks in a trade. And, Larsson fits the bill totally for what the Miami Heat like in a, glue player, right? So if you look at Larsson's profile, he is a longtime college player, right? He actually played 4 years at college. So again, another one of these guys comes out of college, super, NBA ready. That's what the Miami Heat like. They're so good at developing players like that. He's a 6'5" guard with a strong frame. Like, does this sound familiar? Does this sound similar to a Jaime Jaquez or, any of these players they've been developing late in these drafts or even undrafted? Like, these guys that play long time college, careers, and then they come in and they're a lot more ready than a lot of, other rookies. From what I'm reading from, people that are smarter than me, his frame is really good and he's a capable defender. And apparently this guy is a shooter, like he's a sniper. And, it says that catch and shoot and off-ball situations, he is a reliable shooter. And also he's athletic with a good frame. So it could be a lob finishing, player as well. Apparently he has super high upside in the pick and roll game as a playmaker with good ball handling skills. Like, this just sounds so good to me about like Miami Heat fit. Like, this just, screams Miami Heat to me. And so whether or not you see him on the floor in a consistent role next season, I think it's just another guy to add to this list of, prospects that are late coming out of the draft, 4 years at college, which is crazy that that's late now, but like, you know what I mean, that have a, polished skill set, can be a little bit two-way versatile glue guys. Like, there's so many of them that have happened for the Heat. But yeah, he's a defender, he can shoot, he can handle, like, he's athletic, he's strong, NBA body. Like, that just screams Heat to me, and that just screams, solid rotation guard if possible. I mean, you could always use more shooting and defense, right? So that's an A+ draft. No question about it. I mean, Kel'el Ware, again, the ceiling is impeccable, and just the ability on both ends is going to make him unique in whatever role he's in. It's going to make him stand out. I think, if he comes off the bench as that backup 5, that is certainly a possibility. You could also see him at times stagger throughout the game and finish games next to a guy like Bam Adebayo, or, start games next to a guy like Bam Adebayo. It just really depends, but I think you were in great hands if you're the Miami Heat with a guy like Kel'el Ware, because Coach Spo and that staff is going to get everything they can out of him. But again, A+ draft for the Heat, B- offseason, so that rounds out to about an A solid or A-, right? That's pretty good, I would say. For me, I think they have done a pretty good job. So let's get into the roster deep dive, my favorite part of the deep dive, folks. And we're going to talk about every player on this team. We're going to go through the roster and, where they're at, everything to do with the Miami Heat roster. Let's get right into it, folks. All right, so I'd be doing us all a disservice if I didn't talk about Mr. Jimmy Butler himself. And I gotta say, before I start with this roster, it is only fair, and I want you guys to let me know down in the comment section how it feels. You took Jimmy from us and we took Caleb Martin. I think that's kind of a fair trade. Obviously, Jimmy is a much better player, and I'm kidding because I know it doesn't work like that. We screwed up the whole Jimmy situation. It was totally our fault, the Sixers organization, and he chose to leave and whatever. But I'm totally joking about that, by the way. Don't take me serious at all. But serious time now. Jimmy Butler will be returning from that knee injury next season, and he has talked about how he's going to go much harder next regular season because, for one, he's due for a contract extension, and I do think it's in line for a max extension, and it'll be interesting to see if Pat Riley wants to give him that at his age of 34 years old. And I honestly think if Jimmy Butler never went down with that knee injury in the play-in tournament against my Sixers, they probably win that game. You guys were crushing us at that point. Hopefully Jimmy can, get healthy and get right, for the season. And, this team really needs a playoff spot next season. The play-in tournament is killing them year in and year out. I know they're trolling in the regular season. That's the thing, but they really do need to secure a playoff spot this season because, for one, to be able to rely on Jimmy just playing his absolute hardest and best and God mode Jimmy in the playoffs, it's just, I don't want to say inconsistent rest because it's worked so much for you guys, but I just think it hurts the team in the long run. So I think this team really has to focus on this regular season, winning a lot more games, and I think Jimmy Butler will be able to do that because, again, he kind of has to if he's going to get a max extension. This guy has to be Himmy in the regular season and the playoffs, and if you pick one, it's got to be the playoffs. But I just think Jimmy Butler's gonna have a one of his better seasons with the Heat next year in the regular season. That's what I would predict. This guy is one of my favorite players in the league to watch. I hate playing against him because I'm a Sixers fan and that always is tough, but he's just the type of guy that if he's on the floor, you have a chance to win, and especially in the playoffs. And I think I just can't say enough good things about Jimmy Butler. Thought it was fascinating last season. He actually upped his 3-point volume and percentage quite a bit last season. That is a very big sign. We've seen him with the Miami Heat take way less threes and knock them down way less efficiently, not necessarily in the playoffs all the time, but last season shooting at 41% on 2.4 attempts per game. That's super good and encouraging for the Miami Heat. I think that continues next season. But if you're just going to talk about efficiency, playmaking, gamesmanship, right, the total package of maybe the best competitor we have in this league at this point, and again, he's able to take over a game. He's an absolute killer, and I just think that is the most dangerous guy to face in the playoffs. Doesn't matter who you are. I think if you had Jimmy Butler for the playoffs in that first series against Boston, you can make a case that they give Boston some issues. They actually stole a game against Boston, and I think having Jimmy healthy would have been a kind of a different series. But let me know down in the comment section, Heat fans, how are we feeling about Jimmy next season? I think you got a big time season incoming from Jimmy, and I think that is probably what you need at this point. The East is a lot deeper now, and you definitely want to secure a playoff spot. You don't want to be in that play-in tournament with teams that are similar skill level, because that's what it's going to be next season most likely. So wishing Jimmy the best, wishing you guys full healthy season with Jimmy Butler next year. Love the guy. Still not over him leaving my Sixers. Yeah, I still want him on the Sixers, but hey, we can't have everything, right? I got to be happy with PG. As far as Bam Adebayo, we talked about how I actually think he is probably the third best center in the league right now. I mean, you can make a case. If you want to call AD a center, that's fine. Maybe he's the third best. He probably would be if he's a center. I think in a couple of years, it'll be Wemby. Bam Adebayo, doesn't matter where he ranks. This guy is absolutely special as a two-way player. Arguably arguably one of the best, defenders in the league. Not arguably, he is probably a top 5 versatile defender in this league. We talk about shot contesting. He is best, probably the best of the bunch, right? For him being able to do everything he's done at the center position at his, smaller size for a center, like to go against guys like Embiid, to go against guys like Jokic and really put up a good fight defensively, be able to switch on almost any position. This guy's a special talent, and offensively he has grown as well. Last season, I think you saw a lot more perimeter bag to him, right? And I think his improved three-point shooting is going to pay so much dividends on the offensive side of the basketball. Like, we saw him take a big leap last season in the threes. We saw him take a massive leap in the Olympics. He was just knocking them down almost every time, it felt like, from that corner, from the top of the key. Like, he's just money on those now. And if he can do that consistently, that adds a layer to your offense you haven't had. It just makes him so much more dynamic. And I think that's what you're going to see from Bam Adebayo next season. DPOY, capable defense when he's on the floor. He doesn't get enough credit for that. He doesn't make all NBA defensive teams, which is wild to me that he's not considered as DPOY a lot of times, because he is just so special. To be able to guard basically 2 through 5, like on any given possession, it's just wild, right? He is an anchor for the ages. And I think, securing him with that 3-year deal, you're just going to see so much development from him from that 3-point arc. And again, if he shoots around 36% on like a few attempts per game, like, similar volume to like Jimmy, maybe 2.5, 3 attempts per game, like that is game changing for your offense. So, I got nothing but great things to say about Bam. Just such a great player. One of the best players in the league, especially for that position. Tyler Herro, we don't talk about Tyler Herro as, a guy that is considered one of the best guards under 25, and I think we should, because for one, this guy is capable of coming off the bench, being a 6th man of the year, as we've seen previously him win that award. He's also capable of being a 3rd, leading scorer on a high level team. He has struggled with injuries throughout the past couple seasons. I think that's really hurt him and the Heat. But, I will say him playing 42 games last year definitely hurt you guys. But let's just imagine a world where Tyler Herro has way less responsibilities with the addition of Terry Rozier, who we'll get to in a minute. But, if you can get similar production out of Tyler Herro, who is a not good, great shooter, off the dribble, off the catch, movement, right, off of screens. He's 40%, on 8 attempts per game last year. That is nuts. That's crazy. He's a great playmaker as well. I mean, 4.5 assists. That's a career high last season on only 2 turnovers per game. That's a good ratio. 21 points per game last season. Like, Tyler Herro is still getting better. And I think if he's able to stay healthy, man, I'm telling you, this team is dangerous. Like, he will have to do less throughout the regular season with hopefully a healthy Jimmy who's hungry, with a Terry Rozier, kind of doing a similar role to Tyler Herro. So I think Tyler Herro most likely will be the 6th man of this team, or it's going to be Terry Rozier. I don't think you play both of them at the same time. You could. I just think it's a little redundant. I think you could get better value out of someone else, next to Terry Rozier. But I'm just saying, Tyler Herro is very underrated. Yeah, I just think Tyler Herro is in for a big season next year, and especially if he could stay healthy. That is the goal, and that is the hope. This team, again, as I mentioned, has struggled with a lot of injuries throughout the past couple of years that have hurt them in the regular season, which then hurt them in the playoffs. And I think, again, if we could just see one big healthy year from Tyler Herro, he could have a monster season next year. Let's talk about Terry Rozier, because actually one of the better additions for this team. And last season you make a trade with Charlotte for him that involved Kyle Lowry, who ended up on my Sixers. But Terry Rozier was a big time offensive game changer for you guys. This is probably your point guard next season, I would imagine, because he actually ended up playing 30 games with the Heat, 31 games with the Heat last season, started 30 of them, and he shot the ball very well, from 3 especially, 6 attempts per game on 37%. That's great. Elite numbers there, 90% from the line. I mean, these are good numbers here. He's capable of running an offense pretty efficiently. I mean, last season with Charlotte, he was averaging about 7 assists per game on 2 turnovers, and last season with Miami, it was a little bit less of a playmaker role at 5 assists per game on about 1 turnovers, which is very good. But again, I think him and Tyler Herro, make it a little bit less of an issue for guys like Jimmy, and actually for each other, to be able to, carry an offense night to night. Like, I think he is capable of hitting big shots late in games. He's capable of keeping you in games, with that shot making ability, with the on-ball pest capabilities, right? Like, he's a good on-ball pest, I think, at times. I just think this is a great complementary piece for you guys, and the ability to relieve guys like Jimmy and Herro any given night so that they can rest and be healthy for the playoffs is going to be big for you guys. And I think, Terry Rozier is a very good example of why you don't need really a 3rd superstar, right? Because, like, what are the chances you could get someone better value than both Tyler Herro and Terry Rozier offensively for this team without giving up, like, big time pieces for your future? So I think, the combination of Herro and Rozier is going to make it similar production to a 3rd star. so that really is kind of the case for me. Someone that I think is poised for a breakout season next year is Jaime Jaquez Jr. If you watched him in the summer league, if you watched this guy last season as a rookie, he looked like a 5-year veteran. I mean, his game is so polished, it's so complete. Like, he's only getting better too. We talk about efficient scorers. We talk about ball handlers that can get into the paint. He has exceptional size for a 2-guard or a wing or whatever you want to call him. Again, another guy that offensive rebounds super well. He's a good playmaker. Like, he's going to develop so much for you guys within the next couple of years. And I think next year you see his numbers big time increase. And it doesn't hurt that he's playing next to great players. I mean, that's only going to help him. But like, if you look at his 3-point numbers, that's probably going to go up. He shot 32% last year on 3 attempts. He's really good at getting to the line. Again, I think this is definitely a starting player for you guys. And I think, his versatile game offensively is massive. It's very Jimmy Butler-esque, actually, when you really look at it. So in terms of like the things he's able to do, he's a big guard that gets inside, can shoot from the mid-range and create for others, plays a very physical brand of basketball for the position. Like, I think that's kind of similar to Jimmy. I think he's pretty good at defense as well. Like, this guy is one of the best players of your future, and he's gonna have a breakout season next year, no question about it. For me, he's one of my breakout candidates. We talked about Kel'el Ware, how he fits with this team. He's only 20 years old, but a legit 7-footer, 7 foot 250. And I think if you look at Kel'el Ware and you look at Bam Adebayo, like, we've talked about Bam Adebayo's size and how he's been able to guard guys like Joel Embiid pretty consistently. But again, when you're going against guys like Kristaps Porzingis with the Celtics, when you're going against guys like Mitchell Robinson with the Knicks or Embiid with the Sixers, like, you just can't coach size, right? And as great of a coach as Coach Spo is, that's something you can't make up for, right, with a smaller player. And while Bam Adebayo is great, one of the best defenders in the league, probably top 5 defensively in this league for any position, Kel'el Ware having that size and having both of those guys on the floor defensively at the same time is a absolute nightmare for anybody. And I think against a team like the Celtics, having this switchability, imagine a lineup of like, Tyler Herro or Terry Rozier at the guard, and then you have like Jaime Jaquez and Jimmy Butler, Kel'el Ware, and Bam Adebayo. Like, that is a monster defensive lineup with offensive upside as well. Or Haywood Highsmith. Like, it's really such a positionless thing for the Heat defensively now, and they're probably going to have a top tier defense again next season, no question about it. And Kel'el Ware only adds to that. And I think, again, if you can find a way to get him on the floor with Bam offensively and not have it be a liability and not have it be kind of clunky at times, I think that is the goal, and hopefully we can see that in the future. Kevin Love, another big man that can provide a lot of offensive firepower from that big man position, power forward, center, whatever it's going to be. We could see him come in and substitute for the power forward. We could see him come in and start at power forward. It really depends on what kind of lineups and what kind of matchups the Heat are facing night to night. I think that's probably going to be the biggest thing as far as the bigs, who plays, what kind of minutes, what kind of role. But the floor spacing ability is great. It is great for that position. He is a great rebounder as well still in his career. You might say, well, he doesn't average a double-double anymore. Listen, he has a limited role. He is a role player, but if you look at the offensive rebound numbers for his role, it is certainly great. And his, he still has a post bag to him. He still has, elite shooting touch, like from anywhere on the floor. So I think, his ability to space the floor for guys like Bam, for guys like Kel'el Ware is going to be massive. For guys like Jimmy Butler, who aren't necessarily great perimeter shooters, right? Those are the guys you want to pair around guys like Jimmy and Jaime Jaquez, right? Who aren't necessarily going to be lighting it up from 3 and, creating a ton of gravity in that regard. You surround them with great shooters like Kevin Love, who can spot up and knock them down at a high rate and also provide a lot of, defensive rebounding. So I love bringing back Kevin Love on a 2-year deal, and I think it's going to make this team a lot more flexible night to night lineup wise for sure. Haywood Highsmith is another guy that could end up starting. I think he has a lot of two-way capabilities. We talked about the 3-point shooting. Another guy you want to put next to guys like Jimmy and Jaime, right? This guy's a really good defender as well. I think he is just a solid glue piece, and I think this is one of the guys that you look to see to maybe uptick his role a little bit, just a tiny bit, to where Caleb Martin was. He's actually a similar sized player to Caleb Martin, and I think his role will be very similar to Caleb Martin in that regard. I love they're just creating such flexible lineups night to night with this team. There's so much depth that you can put on the floor. We could see, forwards for, Caleb Martin that are just, quite frankly, similar value overall. Like, there's 4 forwards on this team I could see playing night to night, or wings either way, that are just super good. Like Jaime Jaquez, you could put it a wing. Jimmy Butler's a wing. Duncan Robinson's a wing, and Haywood Highsmith's a wing. Like, there's just plenty of wings on this team, as well as Josh Richardson, who's kind of also a wing, and he actually played pretty well for you guys last year. I know he was injured for, I think the later part of the season, but like, another really good defender who has a little bit of scoring capability and pop to him. You know, he's a longtime Heat early in his career, and now he's back on this team. You know, I think this is a good, again, complimentary wing guy. And Duncan Robinson, one of the greatest shooters in the league, one of the best catch and shoot guys, no question. 40% from three on 7 attempts per game last year. I mean, this is a sniper who also playmakes very well. I think he added a little bit of defensive playmaking as well last season, averaging about a steal per game. Again, it is always going to be a question whether or not he can, you know, not be a liability defensively, and I think he improved a lot last season. I don't know. Heat fans, let me know down in the comment section what we're feeling about Duncan and his defense, but you can't question his shooting. I mean, it is certainly, you know, all-world elite because he takes different types of threes off the catch. He is one of those guys that, like, off of screens, he's flying around the perimeter and, you know, shooting on the move. Like, that is something you don't see from a lot of shooters. He's got that type of ability to him. So again, let me know down in the comments. Alec Burks, he slides into kind of a point guard, you know, secondary ball handler role off the bench. I think this is a guy that comes off the bench, provides you quality playmaking, shooting ability, you know, offensive pop to him. I think he's a dog, and I think he gets after it, and, you know, definitely plays hard, and I think that's what the Heat like probably, you know, the most about him. I think he's going to fit the culture well. And, you know, I actually think one of the things this team probably needs more than anything at this point, you know, their biggest need isn't necessarily a third star. I actually don't think that. I think the biggest need on this team is a point guard, like a legit traditional playmaker, okay? And, you know, the Heat have a ton of great playmakers. They have Jimmy Butler, who's a great playmaker for his position. They have Tyler Herro, Terry Rozier. They are good playmakers, certainly good enough. And then you have Bam Adebayo, who's also kind of an offensive hub. He's a great passer, great elite center passer. You also have other guys to playmake. You know, we talked about guys like Jaime Jaquez taking a playmaking lead. Like, this is a playmaking and point guard by committee type of situation, which I think is more flexible and versatile. I just do think having a traditional point guard on the roster is something maybe they could look at. You lose Kyle Lowry, and I think that's kind of what he was for you. But I also think, you know, the playmaking isn't necessarily bad when it's certainly good enough when you have 5 players at any time on the floor who are great passers. Kevin Love's a great passer. Like, I'm not saying, you know, their playmaking is not good enough. It's certainly great lineup wise. When you look at the whole roster, most of these guys are good playmakers and above average for their position. And the Heat just don't play through one player necessarily all the time. Like, they are a, you know, committee type of team as far as scoring, as far, you know, they're very systematic. But I'm just saying, just if you need a guy like that at any given time, I think it would be good to have on the roster. I mean, in that regard, let me know down in the comment section if that's going to be an issue. I would expect Terry Rozier to probably be, you know, maybe the most active out of that position group, like for the traditional point guard. But again, let me know down in the comments. You know, a lot of the playmaking goes up to Jimmy Butler and Bam at the end of the day. So I don't think it's an issue, but I think, you know, they could look for someone to come in and do that. You know, you could say Alec Burks is kind of similar to that as well. There's plenty of guys that could take that position. One of the, you know, biggest breakouts last season was Nikola Jovic, another guy that could play make really well for his position. This is a 6'10" forward. This is your backup power forward. Again, you could even start him at the power forward position. He is a long guy. He's 6'10". You know, I think he moves pretty well. Last season was an exceptional shooter for you guys. He really, you know, improved there, and he shot 40% on threes for 3.5 attempts per game. That is exceptional. You know, he rebounded the ball well. He upped his assist numbers big time. I like Nikola Jovic a lot on both ends, and I think he just another long guy that's versatile on both ends. You know, this is it, we're starting to see a pattern here with the Heat. No surprise there, right? But, you know, I actually think, you know, him and Kevin Love are probably going to rotate in and out for each other because, you know, the shooting ability and the stretch forward possibility. So I don't know if Kel'el Ware will necessarily be a, you know, power forward or center, you know, because you do have Kevin Love, you do have Jovic, and then Bam. So, like, could Jovic possibly play the 3? Like, please let me know down in the comment section. Or is he more of a power forward? That's kind of what I see him as. I know the Heat, you know, at the end of the day play positionless, but, you know, I'm talking about skill sets and who's going to guard who type of thing. Because at the end of the day, you do have to account for that stuff. And so, yeah, I'm not saying like he's going to play the 4 and that's locked. Like, that's not really how it works anymore in the NBA, but you guys know what I mean. Like, the ability and skill set is important to have that type of player on the, you know, floor at all times. A guy with that size profile. You guys know what I'm saying. Please let me know about Jovic, you know, and what this, you know, front court rotation looks like, because I'm actually really curious to see what Coach Spo decides to do. I would imagine Thomas Bryant is probably at the end of that, even though if you're going to have Thomas Bryant as like your third string center, you know, that's pretty good, I would say, because another guy that's just a big body who can come in and space the floor from 3. I know he shot super bad last season, but, you know, this is a guy that I don't think has a, you know, consistent role with this team next year. But I think if you're really short on big men throughout the season, you could see him step in as a backup 5, as a, you know, maybe a spot starting 5 if you're really shorthanded. But I like the re-signing for him as well. And then, you know, Pelle Larsson, and the guard you drafted in the second round or acquired from the Hawks, who was drafted by the Rockets. This guy has a intriguing skill set for me. You know, I think for a second round pick, the skill set looks exceptionally high value to me. So if he gets a role, please let me know. This is a bigger guard than a lot of your other guys that, you know, are going to be able to do similar things to Jimmy Butler and Jaime Jaquez, you know, as far as his profile and what I read online goes. But like, as far as, you know, his role with the team, please let me know, because will he be, you know, a two guard you play quite a bit, a combo guard you play? You know, that's something I'm interested to see. And yeah, I think that's, you know, pretty much it for the roster and, you know, guys I really want to talk about. You do get Josh Christopher, who was out of the league last season, and, you know, he ended up playing a lot of summer league minutes. I thought he looked pretty good. This is an athletic guy, you know, former Houston Rocket, played a lot of time there. But yeah, please let me know about that as well. But, you know, Heat fans, if I mischaracterized or gave any incorrect information throughout this video, it is not my intention. Please correct me down in the comments, because, you know, my goal of these videos is to be as in-depth and thorough as I can with the information I have. I do a lot of research for these videos and I try to get everything on point, but I'm just not gonna, because, you know, this is a long recording. I'm at 53 minutes right now in the recording, and I'm gonna say some stuff that's probably wrong. You know, I do edit it down quite a bit, try to account for all that stuff, but I'm just, at the end of the day, I don't watch every Heat game. I'm not tapped into everything the Heat do or everything going on with them, so there's just gonna be certain things I miss or don't know about, you know, gaps in my knowledge with this team. So please let me know, Heat fans. You know, I think you guys are potentially in for a 50-win season. I mean, we talked about how great the East is and how much better it's getting. You know, the top of the conference is certainly elite. When you think about teams like Boston, Milwaukee, New York, and Philadelphia, and you got other great teams like Indiana and Cleveland and the Orlando Magic, and you're certainly in that mix. I mean, for all those teams, like the Heat are one of the biggest wild cards year in and year out with the playoffs. I mean, let's say they get a 6 seed and, you know, they beat the 5 seed, all of a sudden they're looking to go for a conference finals push again. Like, they're certainly talented enough to stay in that mix, and they certainly have the right idea and attitude about it, you know, with the Heat culture. Again, I think Coach Spoelstra is the best coach in the NBA. You know, I just think that's, you know, that's my opinion. There's other guys that are certainly up there. You talk about Mike Malone in Denver. There is Steve Kerr in Golden State. You know, there's plenty of great coaches in this league, but I think as far as, you know, consistency, longevity, and what he's able to do with, you know, the talent he's given and maximize them year in and year out, it's Coach Spo, no question for me. But yeah, Heat fans, how are we feeling about this roster? How are we feeling about not going after another star? I know a lot of you guys want that, I'm pretty sure, from what I'm seeing, but I'm gonna be honest, man, if everyone's healthy, if this lineup is healthy, you know, by the playoffs, and they all go into it full strength, they are as good as anyone. Like, you know, that's just how I see it. Like, if I'm being honest, I would be absolutely terrified to play you guys in the first round. Like, I would actually hate that. I would rather play like almost anyone else. Okay, my list of who I don't want to play in the first round basically goes like, let's see, Boston, New York, and then probably Miami, if I'm being honest. Like, Milwaukee's right up there too, but probably Miami is third. You know, as far as teams I don't want to face in the first round. You know, again, you know, it's going to be chaos next season in the East. You know, wherever you rank, even if you're at the top of the conference, there's a good chance you face a team like Miami, Orlando, or Indiana in the first round. Like, it's going to be wild, but hopefully a long, healthy season for Jimmy Butler and Tyler Herro. You know, hopefully Bam can, you know, stay consistent with those threes. Hopefully Kel'el Ware develops into the player we think he can. But again, Heat fans, let me know down in the comments. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, because if you enjoyed the deep dive, you know, we're gonna be doing similar content to this every single day on the channel. We're covering every team with a deep dive just like this for the upcoming 2025 season. It'll be almost similar in every way for every team. So long video with a lot of thorough analysis by me. Some of it I get wrong, a lot of it I think I try to get right, but either way, if you're interested in that, please subscribe. You know, we're almost done with every team, and we've got about like 6 more to cover in this offseason. And again, gonna be dropping them every day until the all the teams are done. There is a playlist on my channel with all the ones we already covered. We got about 21 or 22 of them so far, so check out that playlist if you want to see a different team. You know, we're covering all of them. So after that, we're gonna, you know, basically back to business as usual, right? Covering all things NBA every day. Similar effort and video quality to this, I would hope, for me, and a lot of fun things planned. So please subscribe if you guys are, you know, enjoying the content, and, you know, that would really mean a lot to me. We're on the road to 14K. You guys have been amazing with the support. Thank you so much. Follow my Twitter and my Twitch. We're gonna start streaming on Twitch again, so, you know, it's just another way to interact with you guys. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. Probably in the next few weeks, we're gonna be starting up streaming on Twitch pretty regularly again, and I'm actually really excited to do that, because I want to talk to you guys and engage with you guys in a more, you know, in-depth way rather than just the YouTube comments. Because while I do appreciate appreciate the YouTube comments, and I love talking to you guys down there. I try to reply to as many as I can. I will say it's just different in a live chat, so please follow my Twitch. We'll be doing 2K stuff over there. We'll be talking about hoops, a lot over there. It's gonna be a lot of fun. I have a lot of fun things planned for it, so please follow the Twitch, and then follow my Twitter. I'm pretty active over there, and if you guys ever want to get in contact with me directly, it could be anything. My DMs are open. All you got to do is follow my Twitter and DM me. I'll try to get to it as fast as I can and reply to all of them. Looking to be more interactive in different ways with you guys, and I just love the fact that you watch the videos in the first place. And leave a like on the video, comment down below, subscribe, blah 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 blah. That's my shameless plug, and that's the end of it. I will catch you guys in the next deep dive tomorrow. Hopefully you guys have a fantastic rest of your day today, and hopefully Heat culture can prevail again in 2025. I'm afraid of you guys, I'm gonna be honest with you, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. I love you. You're the best. Yeah, I'm talking to you. Yeah, you're the best. Have a great rest of your day. This is your boy D Haven. As always, peace.